I was not interested, that I wouldn't even listen. I won't go for it. Whatever it is. So you may as well stop trying.
We never stop number 6. Now we'll see how accurately they've timed it. When she was given a drug yesterday, one of the new super strength mocrobamates that we've developed. She doesn't know anything about it.
A beautiful young girl in danger is used to decoy the prisoner into intrigue and assassination in It's Your Funeral.
We are in this prison for life, all of us. But I've met no one here who has committed a crime.
Some other way, then. Not by an act of murder.
Assassination.
Call it what you like. The important matter is that the entire village will be punished.
The prisoner is forced to protect the tyrant who would destroy him in the next desperate adventure of the prisoner on this channel.
Keep away!
Where am I? In the village. What do you want? Information. Whose side are you on? That would be telling. We want information. 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 What do you want? Information. What do you want? What do you want? Information. What do you want? Whose side are you on? What do you want? Information. What do you want? Information.
Hello again, and welcome to another intriguing episode of The Prisoner. I'm your host, Scott Appel. We've already established that the village is one solution to the problem of what to do with people who know too much secret data. Tonight's episode, It's Your Funeral, asks the next logical question. What do you do with people who know too much about the village? As one might expect, number 2 has a solution, and it's not a pretty one. I'll be back after tonight's adventure to give you a special tour of the real-life location of the village, Portmeirion, Wales. And I'll also repeat the addresses of some of the prisoner fan clubs still in existence. So, if you're allowed sharp-pointed objects, you might want to have a pen or pencil ready. After all, it's your funeral.
Where am I?
In the village.
What do you want?
Information.
Whose side are you on?
That would be telling. We want information. Information. Information.
You won't get it.
By hook or by crook, we will.
Who are you?
The new number 2.
Who is number 1?
You are number 6.
I am not a number. I am a free man.
Welcome back, my friends, to an all-new episode of Once Upon a Village, a Prisoner podcast. It's your number 2 here, speaking to you directly from the village. I'm looking out from the control room, and I'm looking for number 6, and control says they can't find him, but maybe if I just say his real name, he might speak up, and that being our own number 6 here, Jim Beard. Hey, Jim.
Hey, if this is a funeral, should we just bury this episode?
Oh, my goodness. Okay, that's why you didn't want to say anything beforehand.
Oh, no. No, I'm asking you.
I don't want to bury this one. It lingers sometimes like a funeral.
My A&E booklet that comes with my DVDs really slams this episode.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't agree with that, but yeah, it basically said it's considered one of the lowest of the episodes, you know, and it makes you want to believe that like everybody dislikes this episode and it's a mess and everything else. But I didn't think that at all. It's no more a mess than any other episode, really.
I think it's got a great beginning. I think the middle goes on a little it's like they forgot almost like what was going on, or again, it's kind of one of those things where it's like maybe if this had been a half-hour show or a little less time, it might have been more of a punch to it. And I thought the ending was just fine.
Yeah, it goes on about how convoluted this episode is, and the plot, and I said to myself,
no.
Honestly, again, although I did sit there for a little while going like, what is the gist of this? Where is this going? But I've said that on how many other occasions,
right?
As I've watched episodes. So to single this one out and say that doesn't, to me, really make any sense at all. You're right, it does drag somewhat in the middle. That's got a lot to do with the sporting event.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think it has a few too many characters.
Yes. Fair.
And that kind of convolutes things somewhat. One of the interesting criticisms of this episode is that everything is supposedly everything's explained in the beginning, and then there's no point anymore after that. Like, we know what the plot is.
Right.
And I didn't get that at all, because I had a fairly big question as it went along that I don't think is really explained or answered, until the end. And that's, how much does number 6 know, and how much is number 6 pretending, I guess, or, acting. And I don't think that that's obvious throughout the episode, and I think it kind of keeps you guessing. And I do think it's also kind of climactic at the end. And again, what I read basically said it was anticlimactic. So that there was no tension at all at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't really understand those criticisms. There are better episodes and there are worse episodes.
See, it's interesting you say that, because I felt it was pretty clear cut from the beginning, which is why I found the middle dragging so much. It was like, I want to get to the end. Let's get to the whole thing, because I twigged on everything here, and we'll get into it as we talk about here. I don't think this is definitely not one of those episodes of Escape, and it's definitely not one of those episodes of Breaking 6. In fact, if anything, I say it's Breaking 2.
Yeah, I would say in some ways this is kind of, it has some similar things going on to Hammer into Anvil, as far as this is an opportunity for 6 to turn the game around,
right, on
his jailers. And once again, he gets a very, very clear win at the end.
Yes.
Short of him getting out of there. I would say that this is, to him, this is the next best thing. That he gets the satisfaction of sticking it to his jailers. And again, I read that criticism too. Oh, another episode where number 6 is in control. And it's like, is that a bad thing?
Yeah.
I don't get that. I mean, I personally would like that. I'd like to see more of that.
Yeah.
It's like he does what he can do within the very bad situation that he's in, and he's going to get his jollies where he can get them.
Right.
And if that means sticking it to the boss, then groovy, go with it. So again, I don't understand those criticisms. I also think that there is some very interesting concepts introduced in this episode, and this is definitely one of my most favorite number 2s. And always has been.
Young number 2.
The young number 2, who I consider to be basically the real number 2. But yes, young number 2. I think I'm most amused by this guy. He's I can assume he's probably fairly annoying to some people with the glasses thing.
I found it fascinating.
Yeah, but a lot of times this is something that an actor will look for and grab onto, which is a prop, right?
Right.
And you make the most of that prop, and it can kind of set in stone, who your character is. I will bet you anything. Some people probably say, "Oh, the number 2 with the glasses."
I thought it was more what stood out. I mean, I like the glasses and everything. I thought his hair, though, too, was just such a shocking blonde.
Yes, yeah. Well, it's everything. His mannerisms are very unique. But again, I mean, he's amusing, I mean, obviously, I don't like him. He's a number 2, but you kind of love to hate him in a way. It's just his whole, and he deserves everything he gets also. And you actually feel bad for the old number 2.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's get into this one.
Let's get into it here. Like we said, the episode's called "It's Your Funeral." The UK airing was December 8th, 1967. The USA airing was August 10th, 1968. I want to get this out of the way too, because I'm very excited about this episode because it does have a huge Doctor Who imprint all over it.
Okay.
What
is it?
First, on the low end, the computer assistant, the one who runs the prisoner's activities report from the computer lab there, Wanda Ventman, she appears in numerous Doctor Who episodes throughout the classic series run, from Patrick Troughton's The Faceless One to Tom Baker's Image of the Funderal to Sylvester McCoy's first episode, Time and the Ronnie. But that's not what's so cool about this. We have 3 actors in this episode who all appeared in one of the most classic and also missing episodes of Doctor Who. Marco Polo is the 4th story from the very first Doctor, his first run. It was a 7-episode arc. The whole thing was lost. And It is a brilliant story, though. The audio has been retrieved. The fans have made what they call telesnaps, because people took pictures of the screens, or they got a hold of set production pictures that were taken, and they put together, through animation and some other things, a pretty decent approximation of what it would have looked like, and it's really good. So in this, first of all, the number 2 that you love, Darren Nesbitt, he plays Tigana, the Asian warrior in Marco Polo.
I will use it well on all but the first of Marco Polo's water girds. For tomorrow, the caravan sets out to cross the Gobi Desert. Now you will follow us, and on the 3rd night, I will walk back to you. Then we're going to ride back here to Lop. Wait for 2 days, and then return to the caravan to collect the thing of magic and will bring the mighty Kubla Khan to his knees.
I got to tell you something. While I was watching this Prisoner episode, I swear to you, I said to myself, I bet you this guy was in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
In fact, you know what would have been... I know he wasn't, but I said, boy, he would have made an interesting Doctor.
Right. Yes, he would have.
Very much so.
Our number 100, Mark Eden, played the title character, Marco Polo.
I have taken charge of the traveler's unusual caravan and set out into the Gobi Desert. The journey across this vast ocean of sand is slow and hazardous. To make matters worse, the old doctor continually shows his disapproval of my action by being both difficult and bad-tempered. For 3 days now, during which time we have covered no more than 30 miles, I have had to endure his insults.
Who's number 100? I can never follow them.
Number 100 was the one in the pink jacket.
Oh.
Or the salmon. The salmon.
Yeah, where did that come from? I don't know. Was that come some kind of fashion statement at the time? I didn't get that at all.
I don't know. And then
he deserved to be beat up. For that jacket alone. He's asking for it.
And then finally, we've got Martin Miller, who plays the Watchmaker, also known as Number 54. He was Kubla Khan.
What's the matter with him?
Oh, 5 days hard riding on horseback, my lord. The doctor's not accustomed to it.
Doctor? Oh, is he? Are you perchance a physician? I am not a doctor of medicine, sir. Otherwise, I should be able to cure these pains.
Oh, it's a pity.
Where is the Wolo Tigana?
I loved him in Adam 12.
That's Milner.
That boy, he really aged.
And just as a quick note, Grace Arnold, number 36 in this episode, played the maid in Many Happy Returns.
Oh, who is number 36?
I think she was one of the women in the background who was doing the checking for our main computer person.
The one that hands over the
information, yeah.
To the other woman, and then the other woman sticks it in the envelope.
Yes, I think so.
You know what? That woman is she number 100? Did you say?
She's number 36 here.
No. The previous woman that we talked about. The one that delivers the computer information.
That delivers it to number 2. I didn't get her number. She was the computer attendant. I just had her listed as according to IMDb. Mark Eden was 100, the guy in the salmon jacket.
Here's one of the. Oh, now it's salmon. Okay. No, listen, it's pink. Let's not mince words here. It's pink. The woman who hands over the information, the computer information, compiles or whatever, too similar to the watchmaker's daughter. As soon as she was on screen, I said, "Oh, well, there's the," and then it's like, "Oh no, it's not her," and because her hairstyle was similar. She even looked a little similar too. I just, again, when they start throwing characters at you, they should try to make visually that they don't look so similar.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of which, number 50, I thought that was also interesting too, because the whole thing opens with her going to the prisoner's house, and we're going to find out later on she's the watchmaker's daughter, but the watchmaker is number 54. So I don't know how the numbers are doled out. When it's that close, I would have thought it would have been 50-51 or something like that.
It doesn't make any sense because the MC, the Master of Ceremonies, at the end was number 245.
Right.
It was like you would think that guy had a fairly important role in the village, and yet he's number 245. So how they hand these numbers out doesn't seem to have any bearing on your status. Mm-hmm. I think it's literally that they handed a bunch of them out in the beginning, and then those people died or left, and then whoever comes in gets the one that's available, and then, years later it's all mixed up, and then you just get what you get. I don't remember. Have we ever seen numbers 3, 4, and 5?
Not that I recall, no.
Yeah.
But as I say, she approaches the prisoner's house one morning. She's able to just simply walk in as he's asleep in his bed.
Yeah, it's like Seinfeld's apartment.
Yeah. And the whole time they're being watched by number 2 and our bald-headed man from Control.
He got his job back.
He did.
Yeah, I was very happy for him that he got his job back.
Mm-hmm. I did like the bit, though, because this is all supposed to be this setup for everything, that she's supposed to get our prisoner, involved in the whole assassination plot and everything. And 2 turns to Control, and he's upset because he's like, why did you leave the door unlocked? Mm-hmm. And it makes, because that was the first thing out of me. I'm like, she's walking right into his house. That just doesn't make sense.
2 things about our Control guy and then Mr. Pink Jacket. They are both subordinate to number 2.
Right.
But they both are not ass kissers. They're not obsequious to number 2.
Right.
It's funny. They're at moments, and Mr. Pink Jacket more so speaks fairly casually to number 2 at times. That you would almost think that they're on the same level or very close. And in the past, most everybody speaks to number 2 with some sort of respect or reverence or yes sir, no sir, yes sir, kind of a thing. Where these 2 guys in this episode, Pink Jacket more so, they kind of get away with speaking a little more casually to number 2. It's just this weird thing that I noted in this. Like, stop worrying. Like, who says that to number 2 and gets away with it?
Well,
and Control was sort of at times, kind of pushing, not insubordination, but again, just being a bit more casual in how he's, almost as if they were like buddies in a way, rather than boss and employee.
Well, it's here's the thing. I can get that in a way because he's officially not number 2 yet. He's the acting number 2, as we'll see when the activities report is sent to him. In fact, why it even needed to say that, again, that's another weird acting number 2. But also, when it comes to 100, there is that little part of me that wonders, is he on par with 2 in a way? Because they throw out some new terms in this episode that we didn't hear before, like the jammers.
Well, that's what I was saying, of the things that were introduced in this. Now, you know what, I take your point and I will support it to a point, but they also knew that this was going to be their official number 2, so you know what I mean? Like,
well, their official number 2, 100. Clearly, it says it at the beginning when he talks about it. He goes, "They believe I am a prisoner," he says to 2. And they also make mention that he's come from Q Division.
Yeah. Right, which is introduced. Number 100, that this character type we've seen before.
Mm-hmm.
It's an assistant position to number 2, and sort of this, like, go out and do things sort of operative, almost like an undercover operative or an agent of number 2. But how many different times have we seen this sort of character that they go there? It's always a younger, kind of good looking guy, and he goes out and about and gathers information, comes back to number 2. They almost always dislike number 6 more than most people dislike number 6. They may, I assume they feel threatened by him, and they almost always get into fisticuffs with him too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going anywhere with it really, other than saying it's interesting that we've seen this character type before in the show.
But if they're trying to make number 6 one of them, because their whole thing is, we don't want to break him, we want him to accept this, then they're grooming him to be a 100, 14, all those types who just are like, screw you, because he is a threat to them.
Maybe this is the time at some point during this, explain to me though what number 6's intended role in the plot is. I might be a little confused about that, because
in the plot of the whole,
they're not really trying to build him up in this. In fact, at one point they work to discredit him. So what exactly is his role? Because obviously it goes wrong. He defies everything, and that's the other thing. There's some very interesting notation in this episode about his status as a malcontent in the village, which I love, because they say he's on the top of the list.
Yes,
and I love it because 6 is proud of that.
Mm-hmm. When you say the plot, though, I'm sorry, but when you say the plot, you mean 2's plot, not the plot overall of the story.
The 2's plot.
Okay.
What was 6's role?
Okay. All right. Yeah,
are you going to sit on it for a little while?
It's their whole thing was he had to believe that this was a real thing. They wanted him to accept that it was real and that it was going to happen. Yeah.
Why? Why was it important?
Yeah. I'll give you that one. Why? Because whatever the reason was, it backfired.
Here's the thing. Hey, number 1, number 2, whoever the hell's running everything, here's a clue for you. Stop involving number 6 in anything that has anything to do with something other than getting information out of him. If you don't have to involve number 6 Don't, because guess what? He is going to F it up for you. Because he always does. Like this. There doesn't seem to be any reason to have involved him. And guess what? They screwed themselves, whoever, by involving him, because he blew it apart.
Well, he blew it apart, but maybe, and this is just out on a limb here, maybe the reasoning was they wanted to see where his loyalties would lie. Remember, he's on the top of the malcontent. But if a threat to number 2, and he finds out that it's the new number 2, is he going to tell? Is he? And of course, we see throughout the whole thing here, he's always about the underdog. He's always been about the underdog throughout the whole series here. His first reaction is, if this plot goes off, there's going to be repercussions for the villagers, just as number 50 says too. Then later he goes and helps old number 2, foil the plot. There's just, even if he doesn't like the person, and he doesn't like number 2, because number 2, he could have just walked away. Maybe that's what they were expecting him to do, was walk away and let it happen.
I'm not convinced that number 6 really truly cared about the supposed reprisals.
Really? See, I think he didn't care about 2.
I kept saying to myself the whole time, everything he's doing is an act. I don't begrudge him if he made it personal, meaning in the end, what he really wanted was to rob the new number 2 of any sort of victory whatsoever. And number 1 and whoever. Okay, would you agree the basic foundational plot of this episode was to assassinate the outgoing number 2?
Yes.
By the leaders of the village?
Yes.
Okay. Why?
For whatever reason, his handling of situations wasn't good. They weren't happy. Maybe it was easier to do that. And at the same time, because remember, he keeps talking, the prisoner, about reprisals. Maybe it was a way, there would have been reprisals as a way to sort of remind everybody in the village where they stand and who they are. And,
I guess that's what we're supposed to believe, is because they could have gotten rid of the outgoing number 2 in thousands of ways once he was gone out of the village, or even in the village that weren't that spectacular. Blow him up on a podium and kills everybody else. This was kind of silly. At the point he was supposed to be blown up, the new number 2 was way too close.
Yes,
in physical proximity, he would have died too. That I didn't get,
or been badly injured.
Directional explosion of some sort. But okay, so if that's the thing, is that he had to die, and he had to die in a spectacular fashion in order for the new number 2 and presumably number 1 to be able to hold an event of reprisals and punish everybody in the village.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Machiavellian. You know what I mean?
Well, he kind of comes across Machiavellian.
Yeah. I mean, that's, we talked about in Hammer and Anvil, the number 2 was accused of being a sadist. Mm-hmm. The young number 2, blonde number 2, I mean, that's pretty sadistic. If that was part of the plan, was, oh goody, we're going to blow him up, we're going to say it was these jammers, and then we get to punish everybody. Mm-hmm. Oh goody, wow, I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, I'm not saying it's wrong or a bad fiction or anything like that at all. It's just kind of it's cruel and sadistic. Is there no other way to remind everybody?
and
who
all
the bosses are?
Well, all done with the blessings of the higher ups, because they keep calling in and checking up on what's going on. And think about it; it sets him up as a much sterner, maybe number 2. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe number 2, the old one, was just too nice a guy.
I have a feeling that it's something like that. And this weird thing about the outgoing number 2 was like on a leave of absence. Like, what was that all about?
Yeah,
because these are parts of the new concepts that were being introduced here. Like, we've never seen that before, where a number 2 is out doing something or on a leave of absence, and there's a stand-in number 2 who. And here's a good question. So the outgoing number 2 comes back, but then immediately leaves.
Right.
Why did they even bother to have him come back just for that ceremony? I guess.
I'll give you one even better, because towards the end I suddenly clicked with me, and I'm going, so does that mean the free-for-all election was just a total farce then?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
You know?
I thought we determined, yes.
Well, we determined that, but it's, at least based on what we saw and everything, because obviously they weren't having elections every single time, and the new number 2 comes in. But it really brings it home that it's like, it's not only that, here's our ceremony, the passing of the torch and everything.
I wish, again, this is at a time where continuity in a show is not very tight. I wish there was more continuity at that point, that number 6 would have said something, even if it was sarcastic, like what I thought that number 2s were elected.
Right.
The other funny thing is that they have this appreciation day, right? And when the woman on the announcer woman announces it, I think it's the woman, or is it a man?
It's a woman.
Over the speaker. She makes it sound like it was the very first one, or like that she had to explain it to people, to the villagers. But then at the end, it's said to be the annual appreciation day.
Well, if enough prisoners come through, you just feel the need to let everybody know what it's all about.
I guess that's what it is. But it goes back to this. I wish there was more continuity in the writing between episodes, that you would feel like there is some sort of coherent structure to the way things are done in the village. We have had how many different festivals, the talk of the political structure. I mean, in the beginning of this one, the 6 does talk about the council, because he says go and complain, basically, and she says to who, and then he very sarcastically says the advisory board, or whatever they're called, But by the way, McGowan goes a little too over the top early on with his voice, and when he gets really sarcastic.
Oh yeah.
He's kind of gets a little too nutty, I think, at that point. But it also says a lot about how sarcastic he gets about the ridiculousness of the village, and he knows that anybody who approaches him is some kind of a plot.
Yeah.
What I really thought, I made a note of it, what I really thought was interesting is, for the very first time in his own home, he speaks out loud to control, to the people watching. He knows they're watching, but I love that for the very first time he actually addresses them in his own home, raises his voice and talks directly to them, which I just thought that was fun. The other weird thing is they bring up this thing about a lady in distress, and the number 6 is why anybody would still think that that's a way to get to him.
Yeah.
I don't get that. They know that doesn't really work, or not work well.
Yeah.
Although it's very cute when he buys the candy for the old lady.
Which is an interesting bit, with the whole thing with the computer person, because it's like, the computer projects what his activities are going to be based on patterns we've seen and such. And even number 2 feels so confident. He's like, he's not going to buy candy. He doesn't like candy. And it's like, well, it doesn't have to be for him. He just buys it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun thing because very early on we get somebody sticking a pin in number 2's balloon. Mm-hmm. He's so smug and no, that's wrong. Mm-hmm. And then he says something like, you're telling me that the computer figured for about the old woman's psychology and factored that in.
Yep.
And then he gets his answer to that whole thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on. I know there's a story in here.
Well, we have been kind of jumping all over the place. I just wanted to quickly say with the whole thing at the beginning there, you talk about McGowan's delivery and stuff with the lines and stuff. The thing I loved about it was obviously he catches on quickly. The door was open. Obviously something's going on here. But even better, 2 has at least a backup because he's been drugging 50 and she collapses at the right moment. I love that. Okay, great. Now it's like, oh, let me help you. Let me do this. Then he looks at her and he sees from her eyes, the way they're dilated, that she's been drugged. So again, it sets his alarm bells off. He never, ever, takes anything for granted.
No, and I like that because in any other show, you might get a frustrating thing where it should be apparent that she's been drugged or whatever. But he knows now, and he says it and verifies it with her pupils and all of that. So I like that. We don't have to scream at the screen, she's been drugged. How can you not see that?
Yeah.
He knows now. Right. And he cannot trust anything. And he doesn't. When he does start to go along with it, or at least he gets interested in the whole thing, that's when I started to say to myself, oh, he's hatching his own plot.
Yeah.
And he's just faking going along with everything. Because again, we just like him, we the viewers can't believe anything that we're shown or told.
Right. Well, he very well could, I have no doubt that it's like, okay, let me play into this. Let me see what's going on. Let me, because he does eventually start to listen to 50 even after, and that's where the first time, and the thing is, they never explain it in the episode. You kind of have to look it up afterwards, what jammers are. I didn't hear anything to the effect of what a jammer really was. And according to Wikipedia, it's people who make up assassination plots to sort of foil control, and they're off chasing that as a wild goose chase while maybe they're doing something else.
Yeah. No, I'm not trying to be a smartass. I did actually get it pretty early on.
Yeah.
They're all about making stuff up,
right,
because that jams up the works.
Right.
To the people watching and listening to them, that they have so much fake stuff going on that they might be able to get away with something else because they've log jammed everything. I really like the idea of the jammers, and if I ever had the opportunity to actually write prisoner fiction, I think I'd love to revive that idea and do something with it. I think it is a very, very interesting idea because I can see where the leaders of the village might not ever truly know if they're a threat or not. It's said in this one that they were once listened to and watched, but it's gotten to the point where they just kind of dismiss them.
Right. Now, there's this whole thing then of basically, and we talked about this a little bit, his activities report and its projections based on habits and such he has, and we get to sort of see a little bit of a day in the life type thing.
Thank you. I'm so glad you described it that way. You were absolutely correct, and I want to put this out there that you could strip away the rest of this episode and take this part, and this could be actually not a bad sort of basic introduction to the character of number 6, because it's exactly what you say. It's like a day in the life, and everything that's said about him, could be like the character bio for number 6.
It's funny though, because some of the things are, a personal nature, whether it's the bars. He does the gymnastics on the bars, which, as I'm watching it, I remember way back when we did the Schizoid Man, you talked about how McGowan's double that they used was enough to work, like compared to other TV shows where doubles didn't seem to work. And here especially, it really hit hard because I was like, yeah, that's not McGowan doing those flips. That's his double. And it was pretty good.
Yeah, I thought about that at that moment, and I thought there's probably some of that he might have been able to do, or I don't know. I said to myself, like, I wonder if somebody told him, we don't want you doing that, or he just immediately said, I'm not doing that. That. But yeah, it's kind of evident, that it's not him. And then later on in the fight scene, it's kind of evident that it's not him.
We get the candy scene that we've talked about. We also get, and I thought this was interesting, and it occurred to me, this has like been a running theme or motif, not a theme, a motif throughout the series so far. He sits down and poses for a painting with one of the older men.
Subject humors other eccentric resident by sitting for portrait, or perhaps subject has ulterior motive.
And in doing so, it gives him an opportunity to sort of casually talk about things going on in the village and get information, whether it's him or our guy with the chess set that he plays chess with every day. I liked that.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Very much so.
It comes across as like, he's, trying to fit in, and it is coming. That's what I think he's hoping to do, is just show I'm fitting in. But the bottom line is he's pumping everybody for information.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. He's going about it in his own way.
And then, of course, as you mentioned, our game from the last episode there, Kensho, I think it's called, you said?
Kasho. Yeah.
Kasho.
I found out, I probably knew this at one time, but I rediscovered that it's actually McGowan's idea.
Okay.
He came up with this Kasho thing, and wow, it goes on for like 2 minutes.
It's long this time, yeah.
It doesn't sound very long, but when you sit and watch it, it goes on and on. I tell you something, maybe it wouldn't be so bad if it made any sort of sense. If you got an idea of like what the hell the point is to it, it might be, there might be a little tension or drama or anything. But it's not until he pushes his opponent in the water and then it ends that any sort of point is there. There's no point to it otherwise. They're like it. If there's no structure to it. In a way, you're sort of chasing the other person around, but if there was more maybe like punching or something, or like a ball that you want, that one has, and you try to get that back or something, but there's not enough contact in it to warrant the ending with the pushing the other guy in the water.
Right.
Maybe again it wouldn't have been so kind of boring and lengthy if it seemed to make any sort of sense. Now today, if they'd done that, there'd be complete rules to it, and we could get the gist of the whole thing.
So because that was my question to you, and you pretty much answered it, was going to be like with the extended time, we still didn't learn anything about it.
No, I think we know even less. Thank God, I don't think it returns. I think it's just the 2 episodes that we've seen it in. I don't think that it comes back.
Okay. Well, it does though provides like a little bit of a plot point, because while they're at it, he and his opponent 100 goes to the prisoner's locker and switches out his watch with a busted one. So now the prisoner has to go to the watchmaker. See, this is where it all starts to drag, because honestly, this could have been so much tighter and a lot, faster, but I know they got to fill in 50 minutes here to make this whole episode work, because then basically it's this whole thing of going back and forth with the watchmaker. We find out, because as he's waiting for the watch, he finds the detonator, and the watchmaker shoos him away. Then we learn the watchmaker is the father of number 50, whose name was revealed once, Monique.
Oh,
I don't know if you caught that.
Oh,
It's very fast, but it also fits in with what you said about how the women get names in this show.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's not referred to as 50 either. We only know her as 50 because of her badge.
Yeah, in the credits, she's the watchmaker's daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is weird that instead of the number.
Yeah.
Or her name.
Yeah.
For that matter. I'm thinking of like 100 different ways they could have written this a thing to get the watch switched out. And what's funny is that they had a setup for it. They already showed that he did his exercises with the bars and all of that. They could have used all that. Somebody, and I'm guessing it's McGowan, was very enamored of that Kasho. And they just may have thought that wow, this is really gonna help with the world building and the science fiction aspect, and people are gonna go, wow, that's so weird and cool. And if anybody at that time was watching it and thought that was really cool, I want to know. Hear from you. Yes, folks, we're still on the Kasho thing. But anyways, okay, so Watchmaker. He's a cool character.
He is.
I love him. You know why? Because he's not cowed. He is not a complacent prisoner.
No.
He's mad as hell and not going to take it anymore. I mean, he's mad as hell and really not going to take it anymore. And because he believes in the whole thing. Wants to blow this guy up.
Oh, yeah.
And shake everybody from their complacency. Yep. Again, really interesting character. It makes me. I almost thought he was going to start spouting some stuff about, like from World War II. Like, we let one bully walk all over us during the war, and we're not going to allow it again. This is what you do to dictators and that sort of thing. But interesting character.
He's an interesting character. He's also manipulated, though, because 100 is working him to make the bomb and everything. Again, he's made himself friendly with the villagers. The villagers believe him to be one of them. So he's able to, get 100 on his side to work on the bomb with his knowledge of mechanics, to come up with it. So, and
the watchmaker's not dumb, because he sees that the stuff that doesn't make sense to him, and he says to 100, why does it have to be like this?
Yeah.
And number 100 blows him off.
Mm-hmm. Why are we showing this to the enemy? He says.
Yeah, I don't need to answer that. Right?
Yeah.
Shut up. Do your work.
Now, what's interesting, you said this at the beginning, too many characters. And sure enough, we then get a scene with number 2 talking to his assistant. That's not Control. He actually has an assistant there as well, a young guy. I didn't catch his number on him there.
This is another too many characters thing.
Yep.
I don't know if we needed that guy too, because he's kind of too similar in what he's doing and everything to 100.
Right.
Not really necessary in a episode where there's a lot of plot going on as it is.
Mm-hmm. And it's basically the scene where the assistant shows his concern about, the prisoner being involved in the assassination plot. Couldn't we have gotten other people? But the higher-ups wanted it, and they'll know that things are working if the prisoner goes to old number 2 and tries to, talk up the plot to him.
Right. See that this guy is like the stand-in for the audience. We're asking why number 6 is involved in this too.
Oh man.
You know what I meant to tell you? I really got a kick out of that. bald-headed Control got to talk to number one on the phone.
Yeah.
I just thought that was, we don't get a whole lot of anybody else talking to number one other than number two. So, I don't know. That was just a little cool thing that I liked.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The prisoner does go, though, to 2. And in fact, it's interesting. We get that little scene as he's walking in. 100 walks out. So we'll pick up on that a little bit later on. He'll say he did see 100 before. He's very direct. He doesn't beat around the bush. He doesn't go on about I've got information or anything like that. He's there to tell him there is a plot on your life. And the thing is, I love it because number 2 knows it's not about him. It's about, so he's very nonplussed. And that's where we get that whole discussion of the list of malcontents.
Yeah. Okay, at this moment, though, what is number 6 doing? Is he really going to number 2 and really trying to tell him there's a plot to assassinate him? Or is this part of the game that number 6 is playing?
It might be. And when he sees that it has no effect on 2.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. He goes to 2 and he tells him, okay? Then the next day when there's the announcement about Appreciation Day and 2 will speak and the monument will be revealed and the passing of power and everything, our prisoner in 50 realize it's the father who's making the replica that's to be passed off to the new number 2. So the prisoner goes back.
Right.
To try and warn him. And I'm wondering if he's realizing that, there's something more to this than just 2 manipulating him. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess.
And again, this is the weird thing. 2 is not worried about the whole thing because...
I've been expecting you.
Want to see number 2?
I am number 2. You've come to tell me there's a plot against my life, haven't you? My colleague is very concerned about these imminent death by violence projects that you've been reporting during my absence.
Plots? I've reported one only.
Not so. My very efficient colleague, or should I say my heir presumptive, has been collecting evidence that every interim number 2 who has served here while I've been on leave has been cautioned by you about some improbable conspiracy to murder him.
Really?
He shows footage, and I thought this was really interesting.
You obviously don't believe me. Well, the psychiatrist warned me that might be the case. Shall I show you proof?
Please go ahead.
My successor, or should I say my heir presumptive.
Number 6. My dear fellow, do come in, do come in.
I'm here to deliver a warning.
And then he basically edits it.
A warning?
With all these other... And here's the other thing, too.
What about?
Plot to kill you.
All these other number 2s we've never seen before.
Continue?
Go ahead.
This is probably another moment where detractors of this episode probably threw up their hands because things are, getting even more...
They're going to what?
To kill you. Assassinate you.
Convoluted at this point. So now what we have is...
What did you say?
Assassinate.
More?
Why bother?
So you're convinced?
I'm convinced that those excerpts are fakes.
You mean they've been doctored? For what purpose? Why should we want to convince you that you're not well?
Perhaps it's you they want to convince.
Me? Tomorrow I hand over to my successor. I retire.
Perhaps they're trying to save a pension.
Is a plot to what looks like a plot to drive number 6 crazy, make him question himself, but it's really was supposed to discredit him, But it's just between him and the outgoing number 2, so I didn't know how that actually. Oh, you know what? Okay. the old number 2 is not in on that. He really does think that number 6 had kept coming in, but did the outgoing number 2 really think there were all those interim number 2s? And how the hell long was he gone for? Like, why was there how many stand-in number 2s the whole time he was gone?
Well, were those interim number 2s for him, or were there just other number 2s that we never saw in the course of the series?
That they were. I don't know.
See, the way I got it was just.
I have no idea. This show's weird.
He just basically turned this around and tried to make it look like, based on what number 2, the new number 2, showed him, saying, "Hey, 6 is a jammer. And here's the proof. Okay. He's played these games before. So it lets number 2's guard down. It infuriates 6. He leaves in a huff. It's like, well, I tried to warn you. Screw you.
Yeah, basically. Well, you'd think he'd walk off the whole thing altogether, but he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. No, because then later he's with 50, and he sees 100. And then he starts to wonder if he, number 100, because he saw 100 leaving, if he and the other 2 are plotting. He for whatever reason, he makes that connection. We don't ever see what connects the dots other than I ran into him coming out of 2's place.
Right. Well, what connects the dots is that the clock is ticking on this.
The rest of this is basically the assassination plot, but there are little things that there are lines I like. Number 2 sends the assistant to then research, because it's not totally out of his mind. He starts to say, is there a possibility that there is a plot between 6 and 2 against him? And the assistant's kind of like, there's no need for such a record. There's no, and 2 starts becoming suspicious of the assistant.
I love it because he says, like, you are somebody who has no business whatsoever in the records area.
Right.
You're sitting there and telling me there's no record of this. Is that right? Am I hearing that right?
Yep. And then he follows it up. The fact you won't explain explains everything. I love that line.
Yeah. Right. Then that's when things really turn, because with the moment we see the old number 2, I hate him. I dislike him. He's a jerk, whatever, And then that's the kind of the moment when it turns, and you realize that he realizes what's going on, and he gets to get really nervous. Like, oh heck, they're going to get rid of me in the really final big bad get rid of me way.
Yeah, but here's the thing: he gets nervous, and then at the same time, when 2 goes back. Or not 2, I'm sorry, when the prisoner goes back to 2 and makes one more attempt to try and reach him, he then admits, yes, I believe it's going to happen. It's also inevitable. Like, he's so into the cause, whatever the cause is. Remember, this is the whole thing. You got to buy into this. That's what they want the prisoner to do. You got to buy into it so much that even if you're about to be assassinated by the higher-ups, what am I supposed to do? I'm a good soldier. I will let myself be assassinated for the good of the village, for the good of whatever the reasons are. I'm going to let it happen.
Yeah, and he knows if it's not then and there, it's going to be in somewhere else in another way. He's not going to avoid it.
The thing is, though, and this is why I say to you, I believe the prisoner is concerned, because he also makes another attempt at 2 going on about the innocent people of the village, the reprisals that are going to happen. And we get that great line, there are better ways to die and better causes to die for.
Yeah, I do like that line a lot, actually.
Yeah.
In number 2, and I feel like we've said this before, but number 2 has got to be like the worst job in the world.
Yeah.
Not to get political here, it's like President of the United States.
Yeah.
Or President of any country, really. Why anybody in the world would want that job is beyond me. It's a thankless job. Like, how many of the number 2s have ended up like this older number 2 in terms of marked for assassination?
Right.
how many, in the history of number 2s, how many of them are no longer with us in any way, shape, or form? We've known a few that have quote unquote gotten away, flown off to the happy hunting grounds, and I don't mean that literally like that, but that's in the earlier days of the show that they've left happy and handed off to another, number 2. But yeah, what again, who the hell would want that job?
Yeah. It's true. I was thinking about, because you're just saying that now and you're talking about president or what have you, and I'm thinking about, well, this is a prison. This is basically a prison. And then I'm thinking the warden of a prison. But I thought to myself, they have guns. They have them in cells. They really regulate. Here, this prison, because correct me if I'm wrong, with very few exceptions, we haven't really seen guns in this series.
No, because they're not. I mean, they're not allowed. I can't even think of where are their guns in this show.
I have not seen a gun, and I'm thinking
they're not allowed.
Well, they're not allowed, but you would think 2 might have a weapon, or some of the.
I'm going to assume there's probably an armory somewhere on the grounds, underground. Wherever because wherever the village is. What keeps the people from the country that it sits in from? There would be clearance with whoever. What keeps somebody else, pirates, anybody, terrorists, anybody from invading the village? Right. There's got to be some kind of armory somewhere. Mm-hmm. Boy, there's another storyline. I'm coming up with all these good storylines. Imagine the village being invaded by outside forces, and everybody in the village has to band together to defend against them, including number 6.
Yep.
And then we get the irony of him defending the village.
Yep. That would be interesting.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm. The day of the ceremony, young 2 is in contact with 100.
This is the moment, ladies and gentlemen. The great moment when we can all show our appreciation of our respected number 2. Today, he is saying his farewell to us, and we have the opportunity to pay our tribute to our departing leader and to show our gratitude to the man who has fooled us so wisely. And in paying our respects to our retiring number 2, we also extend our warm welcome to his successor, our new leader, our new number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, let us salute our leader.
His eyeglasses act as a communicator. He's got a little thing to adjust and everything as he talks to 100. He's nervous about this whole thing. Now it's finally going down. He had just staked his future on the success of the plan with the higher-ups.
Fellow citizens, dear friends, for that's what you are, each and every one of you. We are gathered here on this happy occasion, our annual Appreciation Day, to pay homage and to show our gratitude to our glorious leaders. Now is the moment to give thanks to our departing leader. Let us pay tribute to the great achievements of our retiring number 2. The improved catering facilities, the
Can you hear me? Come in, please.
I can hear you, Wilbur.
Is everything all right?
Everything's all right. Stop worrying. Repeat. Stop worrying.
And the new clock golf, of course. We say thank you, number 2, for the plans you have made for us. The new concert hall that will be built. And the beautiful mural in the library. And the electrification of the clocks. In saying goodbye, we salute you for your glorious achievements.
Where's your father?
He didn't come home last night.
In the shop?
No, he's not there. He must be here somewhere.
Well, not necessarily. The transmitter he's using has a very wide range. It could be anywhere.
And basically, at this point now, the rest of it is action as, the prisoner spots the watchmaker up at one of the high towers. He races to him. We see the medallion being placed around the Elder Two's neck, and the prisoner is able to stop the watchmaker, and there's a great line from number 2, the young one, when he steps up and starts speaking, saying, "I know you were expecting greater things," almost like as a way of like, "Where's the kaboom?" Type thing.
Right.
He sends 100 off to investigate. The prisoner runs into him with the detonator in his hand, and the two begin to fight.
Yeah, well, here's your fight.
Here's my fight. Gotta have a fight.
Yeah, with the stunt doubles. It's a good fight, though. Number 6 takes a couple of licks there, you know. He really does. In fact, I think the very first punch that connects and thrown is number 100 to number 6.
Well, that Q division, they train them well.
I guess so, yes.
The medallion down at the ceremony is now placed on the new number 2 as a symbol of passing on the power.
Keep away!
Now, I know that all of you are eagerly awaiting events much more interesting and exciting.
We're running out of time. Find out what's wrong and be quick about it.
Finalization.
Right away, number 2.
Successors. You must forgive an old man for talking so long, but this is a moment of great emotion for me.
Anything else?
Is he all right?
Yes.
Soon, I'm going to leave you.
Let me have that. Out of my way.
The prisoner does defeat 100 and gives the detonator, comes right up. I love this. Comes right up to the two of them, hands the detonator to the old number 2. It's basically his passport out of the area because new number 2 can't take that thing off in front of everybody. He's just accepted the power.
Wonderful little shot there where new number 2 looks at old number 2. Looks at the detonator in his hand. He's got the thing around his neck, and there's this close-up shot of the old number 2 and this grin.
Yeah.
He's nervous still, and sweating, but he gets this grin that comes over his face because he's holding the detonator, and he knows that the new number 2 can't do a damn thing. It is a really good, meaty moment there.
And so old number 2 gets in his helicopter and he takes off as our prisoner. He had the closing line, something to the effect of,
Yes, and so the great day is nearly over. It went off rather well, I thought. Better than planned. And now you can look forward to your own retirement, and I'm sure they'll arrange something equally suitable for you when the day comes. He's seeing you. Valentine?
The very last line is fun. He says, "Be seeing you."
Yes.
Won't I? Yeah, just really, really, really good.
Yeah. But there you go. I mean, I said it at the start. The beginning held my attention really well. I thought it was strong. The ending, it's like everything's coming together, and it does. Nothing seems out of place. It's just that whole middle part. The day in the life was interesting, but then when we get into the watchmaker, that drags on. He's an interesting character, but it's like, we get it. You're here to protest. You're here to stick it to the man, and 100's using you, and 50 and the prisoner are plotting at cafes. We get it all.
Yeah. The moment when 6 and the daughter go to confront her father, it's the last time that they have a big thing of dialogue. They're actually in the watchmaker's shop. I made a note. It gets like really overly melodramatic in what they're saying, which is why I thought again that number 6 was faking the whole thing. But it's funny because it's not, I guess. But just everything, the way they're all talking is really, really melodramatic, and led me to believe that it was all just a sham or a put on. But I guess it wasn't. If you take out Kasho. That would be a big thing right there. Wouldn't that help, really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You may think that we actually leveled a lot of criticism at this episode, but I don't see it as, because it for the most part, it held my attention, and I liked a lot of stuff, and I thought a lot of different things were interesting. I'm not being overly critical, I don't think, and I don't think that I'm agreeing with the different reports to say that it's too convoluted and too many plots going on and things like that. I still think it's a good episode and very interesting, and with some interesting new concepts in it.
Yes, that's the thing. The new concepts are definitely. I don't know if Jammers or Q Division come back at any point, but I wouldn't mind seeing it.
No, definitely. Yeah, especially Jammers.
Yeah.
So how would you define Q Division?
I didn't go back at the time that I was watching this, and I should have, maybe even to check the closed captioning. I could have sworn that there was a comment there to the effect that Q Division's specialty was murder, which would make sense. He's basically an assassin brought in to... That's
what I would say. It's the, I guess the assassination bureau of whatever number one's organization is.
Right.
Yes, that's what it is to me. They're the wrecking crew, the murder division.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because Q Division in James Bond, they're the gizmos, they're the tech.
Yeah, very, very much so. And that would have already existed at this time.
Right.
Why not? Which is funny.
Right. Why not call it like Z Division, which is, the end?
Yeah, I don't know. Was it the writer trying to make a funny about James Bond, and a sort of oblique, reference to it, or to turn it around? Yeah, it's funny. I don't know. Or was there really somewhere in history a real Q Division that did the sorts of things that this one does? I don't know. I don't know.
Or Z Division.
Yeah. Zed to make dead.
But I enjoyed it. I really did. I don't agree with your A&E book there, or if there are other fans. I'm sorry. But that's the thing. We all get out of it what we get out of it, and for some, there are some episodes of this show I've said I didn't care for as much that I know you liked, and vice versa.
Let me quote from the A&E booklet. You'll get a kick out of this. It's Your Funeral contains some good acting and set pieces, but overall it could be regarded as the low point of the series.
Wow. No, that's not fair.
Yeah, the plot barely holds together, and possibly no director could have done much more with the script.
That's not fair.
I don't think so either. I can think of some low points. Obviously.
Yeah.
In this.
Yeah. No, that's not a fair criticism to levy.
Yeah. That's just weird.
Yeah. Well, anything else you wanted to touch on with this episode? I think we did a pretty good pounding on it, though.
Yes. Yeah, and it held up. I mean, we pounded it, but but not in a mean way.
No.
Not in a sarcastic way. Not in any way that number 6 would have taken it apart.
No, there's that.
No, I've said what I have to say, and all you Kasho fans out there, have at me. Come at me, bro.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if there were. I mean, I'd be impressed if there were any Kasho fans out there.
There are. It's the kind of people who say, oh, everybody is a fan of this part of the series and of that, and they're all, blah, blah, blah. I need my own, avenue or my own part of the show to love, and I'm going to pick the part that nobody loves in Kasho, and I'm going to be the world's Kasho champion and figure out, and we're going to play it for real. You know damn well those fans are out there.
Well, folks, if you're out there, let us know by writing us at thechronicrift@gmail.com, commenting on our Facebook page, or over in the Prisoner group where we post our episodes on Facebook. You could also reach out to us on Twitter at chronic_rift, where you can also reach out to Jim at writer Jim Beard, all one word. What else? Am I missing something? Oh, and chronicrift.com, our website where all the episodes are stored if you want to catch up on all that.
There you go.
There you go. So that's going to do it then for this episode. Stay tuned. Next time, we're going to be dealing with a change of mind.
Uh-oh. The infamous. Yeah.
Is this infamous?
Change of mind?
Yeah.
Isn't this the one without Patrick McGowan?
Oh, is it? Okay. All right.
I think it is.
Oh, this will be interesting.
Very little Patrick McGowan.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
Oh, that's okay.
We're going to find out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're going to hold it up against Elvis's last movie, A Change of Habit, and see which one is worse.
Well, was Elvis not in the movie much?
No, but it's Elvis's last movie is one of his most infamous movies, A Change of Habit.
Okay.
Yeah, because it has a nun in it instead of a romantic lead girl character.
I would imagine this is not one of those episodes McGowan puts in his 7 essential ones.
I wouldn't think so. No.
All right, then. Well, that's what we're going to take on then. Maybe, Jim, you want to take a break next time? We'll bring somebody else in.
Yeah, wait, just like McGowan, I'm going to go off and film a movie or do something else.
Sorry?
Are you trying to replace me, number 2? Are you going to try to blow me up there? Boy, oh boy. I think this plot of this episode has gone to your head. Wow, I'm starting to feel a little put upon.
It gives me ideas. No. Well, folks, thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned, as I say, for our next episode. Until then, this is your number 2 saying, be seeing you.
Be seeing you.
And so the prisoner scores another victory against his captors, although it's a victory that gains him no direct progress toward escape. Since It's Your Funeral is basically an Intrigue in the Village episode, we thought it might be fitting to talk a bit about the village, the real village, the place where the prisoner was filmed, Portmeirion, Wales. Our point of departure on a journey to the village begins in London, England, where we board a train at Euston Station, take a 4.5-hour ride to the northwest, and disembark at Bangor, Wales. We then hail a taxi, and after an hour's drive along the narrow roads of the beautiful Welsh Snowdonia mountain range, we find ourselves in a rocky private peninsula on Cardigan Bay. We've now arrived at Portmeirion, and we're now in the village. Portmeirion was the lifelong hobby of Sir Clough Williams Ellis, a British architect born in 1883. It represents the fulfillment of a dream that he had had since the age of 5, the erection of an eye-opening ensemble of buildings through which he could express his unique and somewhat eccentric personality. He began his playful work in 1925, after locating the site he considered perfect, a site only 5 miles from his hometown, and opened the Portmeirion Hotel in 1926 to support further construction. During the next decade, he cleared and developed 20 of his 175 acres, leaving the rest as woods and trails. By working to delicately harmonize his construction with the existing landscape, he became one of the pioneers of the ecology movement. Sir Clough's dream was to create a place of impish amusement, to awaken in visitors a sense of pleasure in architecture. And so, as he says in his book, Portmeirion, The Place and Its Meaning, I filled my village with willful pleasantries, calculated naivetés, forced and faked perspectives, heretical constructions, unorthodox color mixtures, and general architectural levity. Portmeirion's architectural style borrows from many sources, as does its individual buildings. The turret clock was rescued from a demolished brewery, for instance. The ceiling of the town hall was part of a Flintshire mansion about to be torn down, and the colonnade was originally part of an 18th century Quaker copper smelter. Small wonder that Portmeirion is referred to as the home for fallen buildings. Some of Sir Clough's last writings concern Portmeirion, and his words echo sentiments which could easily apply to the Prisoner series itself. What the whole complex really adds up to must still be judged by every individual himself. The place itself must do the talking, and you will approve or detest of what it is trying to say according to your own individual bias. Sir Clough Williams-Ellis died in 1978 at the age of 95, but lived long enough to see his dream world celebrate its 50th anniversary. Most Prisoner fans who visit Portmeirion are surprised by how small it seems, not only in area, but also because most of the buildings are slightly scaled down, much like those at Disneyland. There's little sign of prisoner activity on the resort grounds, although we've heard reports that Number 6's house, originally a Portmeirion storeroom, has been converted into a prisoner gift shop. And several times a year, hundreds of members of prisoner fan clubs descend upon the village for their annual conventions. And this dovetails us right into our next topic. Many of you have written in with details of the prisoner fan clubs still in operation. Foremost among these are the Villagers, a prisoner appreciation society. They publish a newsletter called Tally Ho, containing letters, photos, art, and articles. For information, write to Lisa J. Rubin, 5030 Linnean Avenue, Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20008. Another is Friends of the Prisoner. They publish a newsletter called Once Upon a Time, which includes analyses, interviews, and Magooan news. They also have conventions in Portmeirion, Wales. Write to David Lawrence, 104 Alley Street, Clemson, South Carolina, 29631. Back issues of the Green Dome magazine, a fanzine for prisoner enthusiasts, which includes articles, analyses, trivia quizzes, original prisoner fiction, and detailed information about the Secret Agent series, are available from Betsy Hatcher, 1928 South Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19146. Finally, there is 6 of 1, the largest prisoner fan club in existence, with over 2,000 members worldwide. Members received an individually numbered badge, a map of the village, photos, 60 pages of prisoner material, and more. They also publish regular magazines and hold annual conventions in Portmeirion. For information about 6 of 1, write to Bruce Clark, American Coordinator, 6 of 1 Information, Post Office Box 172, Hatfield, Pennsylvania, 19440. Until then, I'm Scott Appel, and I'll be theorizing you.